Welcome to Cash Plays. And now your host, Bart Hanson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cash Plays, a conversation with Barry Greenstein, part 2 for November 25th of 2008. As always, you can email the show at cashplays@pokerroad.com. Send me over a voicemail at 877-836-ROAD, or send me a Skype at Bart.Hanson. We're going to get to part 2 in a second, but I want to let all of you know that there is an important news in the Cash Plays Poker Road front, and an important programming note that will come to light at the end of the episode. Barry will talk about it. So you really would like, if you're a big fan of Cash Plays, I would really highly suggest that you listen to this entire episode, because there's some big news coming at the end. There's also some humor in this episode. Barry and I just happened to run into some more Asian women, or it was the same Asian girls, and pretty funny stuff. So with that, here we go with part 2. One of the other things, too, I don't know if you listened to the Smolius episode, from not the first one, but the one that I just did a couple of times. He was people said he was griping, but he was talking about how these training sites have taught, and I don't know how much 100 big blind, no limit cash you play online in that 6 max, but they were talking about how the game has changed to like 30 or 40 times, and he thinks that these training sites have almost shot themselves in the foot a little bit, where the better players now can't make as much because they've basically trained people to make a game inherently more short stack with uber pre-flop aggression and just raising, re-raising, raising. I wanted to see if you had an opinion on that.
Well, I haven't been playing those games because my general feeling is that on the internet, the strongest games are now the no-limit games. That it's just gone that way over time. Another Asian girl you're smiling at?
Yeah. I love commerce.
And, I'm sure if I'm going to call him Neiman.
Neiman.
That's his name, because on the Red Pro forums, people post on their real names.
Yeah.
Again, he's certainly a good player. We all know that. Anyone who's listened to your show knows that, who's heard him talk. So I'm sure he's right. I don't have the experience playing as much No Limit Online as he does. And, the teaching sites are obviously going to be teaching people to be better players. I think what happens, people have asked me, is this a good way to go? Well, books, talking to people, the forums, teaching sites, all these things are great ways to learn, because when you come in cold in poker, whatever game of poker you're going to play, initially you're not going to be as good as people who played it longer than you, and people often ask me, who was my mentor, who did I learn to play from, and the answer is all my opponents, I guess. I never had anyone sit me down and teach me how to play, but I did get to see how people who were winning played, and incorporate some of that into my game. And now when you have these teaching sites where you get to essentially sit behind a good player playing and have him tell you what he's doing, that's certainly going to be a lot of help.
Got a couple more questions before I let you go, because I know you want to get back down and play.
No, I never. Bart,
can we say hello to the?
Excuse me.
How's it going?
What are your names? We're talking about beautiful Asian women, and you guys qualify. And he's a student of mine, and he doesn't know really how to act around beautiful Asian women.
Apparently, I don't.
So
Apparently not.
What are your names here? What's your name here?
Kim Lee.
And what's Kim Lee? Yeah. And Lee, is that? Kim Lee. What's your nationality? Vietnamese. So you speak Vietnamese fluently? Oh, Chao go.
And what's your?
You should.
Jackie.
Wait a minute. I know you.
See, Bart.
I know you.
Bart.
Aren't you Jackie Tran? Didn't we go out on a date like a couple years ago?
Oh, Bart. This is a girl Bart dated.
That's so
Jackie. I don't even want to ask the question I'm thinking. The question I'm thinking is, do you remember the date with Bart? And, because Bart, he might not have been as cool a few years ago as he is now.
That goes without saying.
So that Bart might not be the Bart that we have today. So
Very changed, man.
He's definitely cooler.
Could be.
Well, he's been hanging out with me and getting lessons. Okay, so.
Possibly. I mean, it's been, I don't know, 4 years.
2 years? Why did we stop going on? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
I don't
It's
either.
a long time ago.
It's all right. Well, we're going to be done with this interview in 10
Jackie,
minutes.
you
we'll
can
talk.
take the fifth. You know what that is? You really don't have to say. But anyway, you guys both play poker? Are you winning players? Sometimes. No, because this is really.
You can talk to that.
Okay, you can talk. No, see, it's really important to guys who play poker. The best thing is to find a woman who doesn't cost you money in a poker room, because there are few and far between. So, and then of course, if you guys get to that level, you guys get to pick what guys you want to go with. So that's good for you too. You have a boyfriend who plays poker?
No, I'm single.
You're single? You want
Kimley is very single.
very, very single. How old are you?
28.
Okay, too old for me.
What about you, Jackie?
What about me?
Do you have a boyfriend that plays poker?
I have a boyfriend who does not gamble at all.
Oh, wow.
Would you like him to play poker?
Now I remember I met you too before. I've met you at the bike. Kim Lee, I remember that. Yeah, you were there. I remember. She came in and she watched live at the bike one time. We were talking about that. Remember you came in? Sorry, Barry.
Well, I'm going down to play in whatever the big game is, so if you guys want to mosey on down, you're always welcome to spectate, okay? And, of course, give me some pointers on what I should be doing differently. And we'll discuss poker.
Question. Do you know single poker players down there for her? Because I'm looking for her.
As a matter of fact, listening to this is going to go on Poker Road. Seriously, listen. Go on Poker Road. Okay, that's where this will be. It's Cash Plays, it's called. This is for a show on pokerroad.com. And there are going to be thousands of poker players. And the good thing is they will write in the forums. There are these Cash Plays forums, and they'll talk about Kim Lee and Jackie Tran.
Yeah.
Oh, Vietnamese name also.
Yeah.
Okay. Jackie Tran. And we'll have people giving you their resumes to why. And I'm telling you guys, these girls are both knockouts, okay? But, of course, Jackie's taken for now. But you know how long these things. Well, of course, he's not it's tougher with a poker player, right? Than, the guy outside. Of course, no, actually, a guy outside of poker, though, he's not going to understand you, is he, Jackie? He probably doesn't know why you come here.
No, he doesn't know I'm here sometimes.
Okay. Well, he's going to know now, and that'll probably be, the split in the relationship. But that's okay, because we will have a poker player. Here's a poker player right now, and wait, you can vouch. Are these beautiful Asian women or not?
Oh, some of the most beautiful I've ever seen.
So all you guys on the forums, Kim Lee, Jackie Chan. Jackie will be available in a week. Kim is available right now, and we will have some guys write in. And you guys. Tell them that you can take care of them, that you understand women. I don't want to help. I want them to say for themselves. I don't want to teach them how to be too smooth, because we want them at their raw selves, so we know who they are, and you guys can make good choices. Okay, so go on the forums. You will have people writing in to try to entice you to go out with them.
Wow. I don't really know what to say. It was really nice to see you again, though. Oh. All right.
Bart got a hug? Okay. Very good huggers, too? Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, and this guy needs a what the heck? Okay. What's your name?
Paul.
Paul, okay, you get a hug, too. Oh, I see, a hug so you can get a picture. That's what it is.
Oh, crap. Hold on, it was off.
Okay, I don't know if we can do this because Prop 8 passed, but I voted for it, so...
You voted for... You voted against.
I mean, I voted against it. I voted against it. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's probably why that thing passed, is like people didn't know if they were voting for it.
I know.
or
They
against.
were voting yes and voting no.
One more.
Okay, one last picture.
Barry is...
There you go.
He's very, very gracious. And shaking...
Real quick, man. With
Go ahead.
the JCCOC, and we have a charity tournament in January. We're wondering if you'd like to join.
Well, I have to say that was actually really, really fun, and I did actually date. That is amazing, because it didn't I remember you saw me smiling at them as I walked by. I didn't put two and two together until she said her name was Jackie. I was like, wait a minute.
Bart, all Asians don't look alike.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, there are a couple more questions I want to ask you before I'll let you go back down. I want to ask you about UIGEA. Now, obviously, the law was made into law back in October in 2006. More recently, over the last week or two, they're trying to come up with the rules of enforcement. Is that right? Figuring out how they're going to go about enforcing
Sounds
or
like
writing the rules.
Terms of endearment. Yeah, rules of enforcement. I guess so. I looked over some of the stuff because we have links on our site to it, and it's still, from what I saw, never said specifically poker is an illegal game on the internet.
Right.
Which is the key, because what we want to have that law amended to is that poker is a game of skill that is accepted by the accepted EXC by the UIGA, and because of that, the UIGA doesn't apply, and that's what we're lobbying for. And I've seen, as a matter of fact, some of the guys in the forums, and whether it's ours or 2+2, are starting their own thing where they want to get lobbyists. The Poker Players Alliance has really good inroads and good lobbyists, and you can't, from what I've seen being there, do any better than what they're doing as far as getting lobbyists who have connections to the politicians. I got to talk to many of them. I got to talk to the senators and the representatives, and I can tell you, they don't care about this law.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal to them, but they're just worried about public opinion. They're worried about things like we've got a housing crisis, we got an economic crisis, we have a war in Iraq. If they start passing laws where we say poker's legal, people look at them funny, like, is that what you're doing? It's just really how it looks. If our economy was good, then that would be the next thing to do. Although the one thing that they all liked was the tax on regulating the tax on the internet side. Regulating internet poker means billions of dollars, and many of them said this would be great if we could get that money in, because then I could pass some other bill that requires money. I can't remember the word now, but they explained to me how you can't pass legislation now that would require new money unless also in that legislation you have a way to get that money. So a couple of them were talking about how they would put as a rider on their other bill some poker legislation or exception, so the money, whatever it was, would be paid for that way. So they are fine with passing an exception for poker. I can tell you that right now, the majority. Mm-hmm. But actually getting off their hands and doing it is another issue, because of so many more pressing things going on. We have some of these right wingers, trying to get this stuff done. And for anyone who thinks it's because of morality, because they think poker's a bad thing, it's never because of that. It's always because they're getting money from someone else.
Right, of course.
Never, and this is where people, I think, are misguided. They're saying, well, some people do lose too much gambling and might not be a good thing, and that's the moral reason they're trying to get this law passed. No, it's not. In Washington State, the reason that it's against the law to gamble on the internet, to play poker on the internet, is because the governor got money from the land-based Indian casinos. In Kentucky, the reason they're doing all those things about domain names or gambling domain names, because they want people betting on the races. They got money from the track. You almost never will see a guy who's against gambling, a politician. You might see James Dobson or someone else with some family council and I have nothing against their morals and their ideas and them being against thinking, gambling's not a good thing for them. I trust those guys that that's their moral position. But these politicians who are pretending it's their moral position, it's not. They're actually getting money from other gambling interests. They're just total hypocrites. What we really need to do is get rid of the hypocrites, get them out of there, where you don't have these people, unfortunately, it's the way our system works, getting money from other special interest groups to vote against poker. And unfortunately, it's forced us to play that same game, where now we give money to their campaigns. I don't even want to add up how much money I've given at this point to different politicians, where I've gone to meet with them and in these dinners or luncheons, whatever, and talk to them. I also, contribute money to our political campaign to make sure they're on our side. And I've done it, and a lot of the other big-name players have done it also. And unfortunately, that's the way the game's played. And if it was about morality or something like that, I might put up that moral argument. But actually, I heard Annie Duke one time saying we're on the right side of the morality issue and explained to me why. And I said, Annie, that's not even relevant. It really isn't relevant, and that's not why these laws are the way they are. It's not to protect kids in college from playing on the internet. It's not to protect 15-year-olds from stealing their parents' credit cards and putting money. You might hear these anecdotal things, but playing poker on the internet is a little more pure, I think, than being a stock options trader. As far as you can play normally in fair situations where the house doesn't do as many funny things to you as it does in some of these other things.
Do you think that, like, the party pokers, the Poker Stars, Full Tilt, maybe Full Tilt because it wasn't as big at that time, did they drop the ball in the sense? Were they almost warned that they had to play ball and they had to lobby correctly, and then they just basically said they ignored?
Well, I know the whole story, and I'm just trying to think if I can tell it. Because a lot of times I know things from the inside. But yeah, I guess I haven't ever seen it written. But what the heck?
Well, you can always, if you don't want me to, if you don't want to put it in, I can edit it out.
Well, here's what happened.
Okay.
Is when they were starting something like the PPA, and it might have been called something else initially, to be lobbying Congress, that would have actually stopped the UIGA from ever being passed. Okay, of course, the UIG initially was passed, with Frist and another guy, because Frist thought it'd be good for his political ambitions, where he was thinking of running for president. And we've seen what it did to these guys. Again, a lot of the Republicans got voted out of office because of things really like the UIGA, where, and again, I'm not anti-Republican or anti-anything. I'm more for taking the best ideas, whether they're Republican or Democratic ideas. But initially, the Republicans had some good ideas. Smaller government, less interference from government. But they have done really badly the last couple of elections because all of a sudden they got this infusion from their from the right side of the Republicans, where they wanted to start telling other people what they could do, whether it was about religion or doing things in the privacy of your own home. Even when you hear this religious stuff, it's getting scary. Where I have nothing about, no problem with the morality and ethics that we have associated with religion, and I agree with most of the things, whatever the religion is. But our country was founded on freedom of religion. But we have people who no longer, and we see this rampant in the Republican Party, they're not interested in freedom of religion. They're interested in telling you what religion you should practice. And then they want to even export it to other countries. Then we have problems in the Muslim countries, whatever. And they're now doing that at home also, where they're telling people not only morals and ethics, which I normally would agree with, but they're just saying, this doesn't work in my system, and so you can't do it either. I really feel a lot of them have lost their way, and if they're going to keep on going that way, the Republican Party is going to have a lot of problems. And I think they're going to have to evolve and get back to where they were, of not trying to interfere in people's lives so much. And so hopefully what we will do is vote those kind of people out of office, get more free-thinking people who do realize that we do have a right to do these things in the privacy of our own homes. And as far as judges who are appointed or elected, any judge who goes on record as saying poker is a game of luck, I can't think of an easier litmus test to get rid of that guy, because either he is uninformed about the skill it takes to play poker, mathematical, psychological, all the books and studying we do. Anyone who plays poker knows that. So it's either that, he's just uninformed, so he shouldn't be speaking about something he's so uninformed about, or he's not intelligent. So on either ground, you shouldn't be ruling on things that you're not informed about, and if you're not intelligent, we want to get rid of you too. So this is a good litmus test to get rid of these judges. Mm-hmm. So look for those statements, vote them out. If you're appointing someone who's saying stuff like that, he's probably doing it dishonestly, frankly, because it's hard to believe in this day and age that someone's that stupid to think that poker is just a game of luck. So most likely he's just a dishonest person who is doing it because he's getting support from some other gambling interest to say that. That's probably what is going on. He's just shady. So we need to get rid of these people. And poker being a game of luck is, well, so golf is a game of luck too, I guess, then, because the ball bounces funny. But if any one of these guys wants to sit down and play 4 hours of golf with Tiger Woods or 4 hours of poker with me, they're going to end up with the same results. We're both going to win. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't have enough luck to overcome that length of session unless you develop the skill you need to be competitive. I'm willing to say in poker it will be easier for them to get closer to me than it would be in golf to Tiger Woods, but it's still, they're skill games, and there is an element of luck in both games. And in golf, another analogy I can make is the people who don't golf as well, who are trying to do it as a profession, will lose a lot of money and will have to find other lines of work. And we see this in poker also. People who try to be professional poker players, but they're not as skilled. 9 o'clock, Bart, beautiful Asian woman coming up.
Oh, this is the one that we already saw over on the stairs.
Well, that doesn't mean we can't
I already got it,
wave hi to her again. How's it going?
Oh, hey, Marinette.
Marinette. But anyway,
Did you lose your train of thought?
I did lose my train of thought on this one. But I was saying the other... I was talking about analogies.
Yeah, we were talking about, basically, voting the judges out that make those types of statements.
I passed it. Yeah, I'm way ahead. But anyway, what I'm saying is, yes, there is an element of luck,
right,
in both games, but they are skill games. Oh, I know what I did lose. I was just talking about the other part of it where people often say, yeah, but you could lose a lot of money playing poker, and it's very important to point out that there are really two groups of people who play poker, pretty much like there are two groups of people who golf. There are your professionals, and some of them are going to lose a lot of money and get back and whatever. If the professional golfers who don't make it, same with professional poker players. The ones who don't make it will probably, if they're not good enough, have to do something else. And then we have the more recreational ones who are the majority, whether it's in golf or with poker. And so a lot of these people who are taking the moral side, even the ones who aren't doing it because they've taken money from other gambling interests, are missing the whole point, that there is a dichotomy there, and we don't want to miss out on allowing people who want to play recreational for $50, $100, which is the predominant amount of money that people are gambling for, whether it's on the golf course or poker online. There's no reason to be denying these people that entertainment and that enjoyment, because other people might be losing a lot of money. And then you say, yeah, but we do need to protect them because they can lose a lot of money. But as I said, those are people trying to be professionals, and those people know what they're getting into. And yeah, some of them will lose a lot of money, and they'll have to do other things. But that's just the way capitalism works. So I can't think of any good argument for outlawing playing poker on the Internet. And I think if some of these people would think it through, that they would see that. And even the ones who have moral objections to gambling, I wish they would kind of look around and see who is putting them on that soapbox to talk, and they would realize how hypocritical they're being, that they're taking gambling money to speak against another gambling interest. And I wish some of these guys, whether it's a James Dobson or family counsel or whatever, would realize they're being used and would finally wake up and say, I'm being a hypocrite too. I'm taking money from gambling to speak against other gambling, and they would stop doing it and stop being used. And then we'd be done with this whole chapter in Internet gambling. We finally get to where people can freely do what they want to do, which is really what this country is founded on.
We're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back here on Cash Plays.
Cash Plays.
He's been making his living playing cash games for over 2 months. A regular in the big game at Compton's Crystal Park Casino, now he's sharing his best poker secrets. It's Cash Game Corner with Bart Hanson.
Cash Plays.
Well, if this chapter of Internet gambling law continues, which is basically kind of this haziness, what do you think of the future of major $10,000 events in the U.S.? I mean, you looked at new information comes up about the WPT all the time. Record revenue losses in certain quarters and stuff. They've moved over to FSN. if online gaming does not come back like it did before, where do you see the future of these types of things going?
Well, it's still much bigger than it was, and it's not that it's. I don't think it's necessarily shrinking. We just got to where we were oversaturated. We had so many $10,000 events that because they were getting so many people, we're still having them, whether it's in Europe or here or whatever. Mm-hmm. We have more people participating in these events than we did a couple of years ago, so it hasn't gone down. It's just you got to where we were having one every week instead of one every month. Mm-hmm. And so so it was oversaturated. And the same thing with the stuff on television. It was oversaturated because it would have survived and we still would have kept growing if we would have had the online sites feel that they should be advertising in the United States, and they stopped doing the advertising because the UIGA. The way poker is now, the money all really trickles down from the online sites. They're the ones who pay the big advertising dollars for those television programs, and so for a while it was really nice to have for these channels to be putting on poker because they got a lot of good advertising. Now they don't get as much. If the UIGA gets overturned, or if an exception is carved out for poker, then those advertisers will come back in, and then we'll have a second poker boom, and we'll have more of this stuff on television than we currently have.
One last thing here, and this is a question that was asked of Simoleus too, and this actually came from a guy on the Poker Road forums, and I thought it was really interesting. He basically said, if you could give yourself a brief message back in time when you started playing poker, what would you say?
Well, I wish I would have seen this question ahead of time so I could have thought about it. I didn't listen to the second Simoleus interview. If I could if I could give
yourself
myself
a
message,
like something that would actually help you out. Now, Simoleus' answer was,
well, I don't want to hear his. Okay. It would have been that 3-week period where I lost about $3 million in props to David Benjamin. Take a vacation during that period. I always get a kick out of people saying, I heard like people who don't play with me say, "Oh, Barry lost a lot of money at poker." No, I make money at poker. I still make a lot of money at poker every year, but I actually don't make the amount of money at poker I was making a few years ago because of the tournaments, because of online poker. A lot of people playing there. I don't have the games I once had. I would like I say, I lost some money at things I wouldn't. I wish I didn't lose it at, and I'm sure I got into situations. I could have avoided individual losses, but other than that. I think it's...
You don't regret anything, or...
I regret a lot of things, but normally they're things in maybe my personal life more than in poker. In poker, I've done pretty well, over the course of my life. And I don't think it would be fair to say that, like, don't play June 12th because you have a big loss that day. Mm-hmm. Those are the types of things. Well, but what did Simoleus say?
Well, he basically said that... he would go back and tell himself that the money won't always be there. And this was because, of course, he plays online.
But I did say that, and I think I almost have that exact quote in my book, so obviously I know that. Do you remember, I have a quote in my book saying that money does grow on trees, but those trees aren't always there to be harvested, and something like that. I don't know what I said. No, that's something I know. And something Simoleus would know if he read my book. I'm hoping he has. I definitely know that, and I've been teaching that stuff for a long time, and I learned that stuff at a long age. I learned that stuff at a young age of how to make money at poker, and I think, I have been one of the most successful people to do that, and it's because of things like that. And but that this is a time where the games aren't as good as they were. Mm-hmm. For me, even still, when I look at the money I make now, what happens, and I've known this all along because I've always lived this way. Whenever you make money at poker, you find ways to spend it. Whether in my case it's giving it away or spending it on nice things or investing in companies or whatever it is. And what generally happens, and I'm going through a bit of a period of this now, where when the games aren't as good. Now you think I was making for a while several $100,000 a month, and so I would spend several $100,000 a month. Now I don't make quite that much, but I've taken on a lot of those expenditures, and so I have to cut back on some of the expenditures at this point. But yeah, that's
And of course, Ace on the River. One of the other things people have said is that, or they've wanted to ask you is, do you ever have plans for another book coming out?
Well, I don't for a couple reasons. One is that was a lot of work, and that book cost me a lot of money. I didn't make any money off the book. I didn't plan on it. But I missed out on a lot of good games because that was like during the infancy of the Internet, which is why my Internet chapter is not very good. I wasn't playing there. I could have made more money on the Internet and live at that point. So it cost me a lot of money to write that book. Now the games aren't near as good as they were back then, which means I have to work more often. I don't have as much money as I had back then, where I felt at that point I had enough money. I felt I really didn't have to do much. I really didn't have to play much anymore. So I took the time out to write the book. But a lot of my tips, instead of in a book, I'm putting out on Poker Road, whether it's in the Red Pro forums and discussing poker that way, or on Tips from the Bear, or some of the other things that I do on Poker Road. And the other thing that happened is the guy who did the pictures and my book, I can brag and say it is the most beautiful poker book ever written. Part of the reason I can brag about that is I wasn't really the guy who made it that beautiful. It was my friend Greg, who was an artist. He's a sculptor, and he took the pictures and did the layout, and he was just an expert with color. Greg's taken off somewhere. No one's seen him for a couple of years. I actually don't even have the physical copy of my book. The publisher said he will burn one and give me one, so I can give it to people. That sounds like a poker thing, burn one and give me one. That he'll give me a copy that I can, because the reason I want a copy is so I can give it to some of the people who want to translate it into foreign languages. But it's hard for me to do a next edition. We're getting close to selling out 100,000 copies, and I don't trust anyone other than Greg to really work with me on this. He was such an expert on producing this kind of quality. I do have a theory, because one of the other photographers told me he thought that Greg's ex-wife and daughter moved to Germany, and Greg loved his daughter and would never be far away from her. So I'm just assuming Greg is somewhere in Germany.
Okay. I want to thank you for joining us for this was actually a two-parter, two-part episode of Cash Plays, and there's one other thing that I neglected to ask.
Wait, I didn't follow. Okay, well, should you ask or should I? I never finished up on my story of Bart Hanson, because I know, which a lot of people don't know, it's on the inside, is you don't make a lot of money off Cash Plays. You made actually pretty decent money, I thought, off of the Poker Road Radio. It was a higher paying gig, but you still had to travel a lot. You had to earn your money, let's face it. With the Cash Plays, you really don't get paid that much unless we become a profitable site where some of your stock is worth money. And you got to make money. And you play poker and you also do these other things. So I know you're looking for better gigs, and you got one, right? You got something lined up where they will actually pay you a reasonable amount of money.
I do, and I didn't know if you knew when I talked to Joe about this stuff. I guess you do. You do, right?
I know.
You do?
Yeah, Joe and I are...
Okay.
I know it looks like we don't like each other.
Okay.
No, Joe and I are pretty close.
So I am actually, and this is the first time I'm going to announce this, because we're going to do, after this two-part, one more episode, I'm actually going to be hosting the Deuces Cracked podcast at the beginning of January of 2009. Going to be doing one more episode of Cash Plays, going to be taking December off, and then going to be doing that, and I'm still going to be hopefully actively involved in Poker Road, whether through the forums.
Well, one of the other things I'm sure the forums will be up, and of course, the nice thing about your Cash Plays is you got a lot of good information. That was a great show, and it was perfectly suited to you. I didn't even finish that part of the story. This is a really funny part that I wanted to tell. Is when we just decided that Bart, it was kind of between you and us, where we're saying it wasn't the right fit with the Poker Road Radio. And then Joey said, Bart's got this idea, some Cash Play shows where he's going to interview people. I said, Joe, we have a comedy site. We have an entertainment site. Bart just doesn't bring the funny. I didn't say that. Those are Joe's words, but that was how he would say. And I said, it just isn't well suited. I like Bart. I was the guy who recommended him for the thing, but it just isn't going to work.
Right, of course.
And Joey says, well, what's there to lose? Let him do a show. He's got this idea. Yeah. I'm sure no one will be interested, and then we'll tell Bart it just isn't working. We'll go by the numbers. And I actually said, I don't think it's going to work. And I am willing to be a man about it and admit I was dead wrong. I know so many people who tell me that Cash Plays is the reason they go to Poker Road and it's their favorite show. And it really is for Cash Plays. It's the best show that I've heard. It's the best show on the internet. And you worked hard for this thing. You not only got some of the really top people in poker to come on your show, but I know you drove to Santa Barbara to
I did, yeah.
meet with Brian Townsend. I mean, you've made yourself a nuisance in everywhere around the country, I think, and even in Europe. So
if I'd only learned
teasing.
about Skype a little bit sooner, but that's all right.
You've really put on a great show, and what I'm hoping, and we haven't discussed this, and I know you're going to go with this gig with Deuces Crack where you'll be making much better money. But I assume because really this was your baby, this was your project. We didn't think it up. You did it yourself. And it's always nice to have something that's your own. I know this from working at Semantic. I had my own project. And I remember saying to them, when things were wrong, I said, it doesn't matter if you guys pay me or not. It's my project. I'm going to make it right. And so I'm assuming if there's some really talented poker players, which we're going to keep seeing, coming off the internet because that's the normal place to start playing nowadays, you're going to see more talented players, and I'm sure you're going to get the bug where you're going to say, okay, I'm not doing Cash Plays, but I want to put this in my library, a Cash Plays show.
Right.
So I'm sure there will be times where there's a guy who you want to get his interview because not only do you do a great show, but it seems that you enjoy this show and you get a lot out of it yourself.
I do.
You've learned a lot from it. So
I love doing the show. It's just unfortunate with time commitment and just, the state of poker media is that I actually play to make money as well. And it's become a little bit constricting just because I actually put a lot of preparation and time into the show. And, we've done, it's almost been maybe 45 episodes. And, it just come to a point now where I enjoyed doing it a lot in the beginning. I still enjoy doing it, but I think it's just time for me to kind of move on right now.
Okay.
So,
but I still, I believe that we will see, even after you're gone, a future Cash Play show.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Where you say, I got to get this guy.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
And we do it. And these things are recyclable. And that's the other thing. You're asking me these questions, and some of these young players are talking about the game evolving and all that stuff. What's happened, we've just gotten more good players. Because poker's gotten so big. So, there are a lot of great young players. A lot of the evolution where people say, do you still learn? So much of what I learn is how to play against an individual or, players that are learning a specific way to play, whether it's from the teaching schools or the books. It's adapting to their games. It's not that I haven't known the different plays, but with each individual, I've got to figure out which thing I want to do is going to work better. So I am learning how to play each individual I play. Every time I play with them in that session, I'm learning something about how to play. And you're going to, I don't know how I got off on a tangent, but you are going to see some new player that you're going to want to ask certain questions about his game and why he's doing what he's doing and what's made him successful. And, I know what I was saying is, these books, they're like books. These shows that you have created are going to be recyclable not only for a year or 2 years, but forever probably. That the content is good and it's still going to be relevant as long as most of it's No Limit Hold'em and some Pile Limit Omaha, and you got your own Pile Limit Omaha 8 or better. That stuff's going to be relevant as long as the games are played and the structures are played the way they are.
And that was actually the very last thing I was going to ask you was. Did you think, that there is kind of this change from I had Vanessa Selps about PLO on. Brian talked about PLO a little bit. Durr said that PLO is a better game than No Limit. He thinks it's more pure. So I kind of wanted to see how you felt about that.
Well, I don't know if pure is the right word, but it's a richer game. Obviously, there's more possibilities when you have 4 cards and you have this strange rule where you can play 2 cards. It's just got more to it. It's a more complicated game, but in poker, the way it always works, if you're there to make money, you end up gravitating to whatever game has people who like to play recreational, who've got a lot of money to throw around. And so if some of those guys, if they end up playing Pot Limit Omaha, I know for a while Hold'em seemed to be dying, and we thought that they were going to be playing Omaha 8 or better. About 10 years ago, people thought that's the game of the future. Then it became Pot Limit Omaha. And it will stay that if you got some big deep pocket players playing it, and you got some weak players. One of the problems with Pot Limit Omaha is it is a very tough game to play at a high level. It can't sustain itself just with all the strong players playing each other. And so if it gets to that, they're going to have to move over. They'll have to move back to No Limit Hold'em because it is a simpler game, and we might have good money situations there. So poker's still about making money, and so that's what'll determine it. So if you got a lot of people say, I really like to play, Pot Limit Omaha, then you get those players staying there. In Limit, we have a lot of our recreational players saying they really like to play Badoogie. So a lot of Limit players are saying Badoogi's the game of the future. And the answer to that question will be, do the guys who like to play and who aren't professionals, is that the game they like to play? If it is, yep, we're going to have Badoogie at the World Series of Poker.
And unfortunately, we had a little bit of a technical issue at the end of the episode, and Barry and I got cut off the last 2 or 3 minutes. But I wanted to come in and tell everyone again that I am departing from Poker Road. I'm going to be doing one more episode next week, and I am going to be joining the Deuces Cracked team and hosting their official podcast, which is yet to be named. So I want everybody to look out for that. We'll have a lot more about my departure and this issue on next week's show. So until then, I want to thank Barry for coming on the show, and we will see you next time.